Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. Okay, so the conversation with Brady, sorry, with Xander and Eric, you know, on some level, Eric coming in Xander's office with a certain level of bravado and attitude. In some cases, it can kind of be looked at as kind of out of pocket, bro. Years ago, you decided to make a very selfish decision. And because of that decision, you wound up killing somebody else. And your brother, for story purposes, also made a selfish decision and hit Sarah, and she is crippled for life because of his actions. So partly I'm looking at it like, Xander walking, him walking in there, and Xander be like, bro, how you gonna sit there and come at me with a certain level of attitude? And your brother made a selfish decision and changed my wife's life forever. And you have the audacity to come at me with a certain level of attitude? Are you out of your damn mind? So on some level, I can see where Xander's coming at. Now, Eric asks, what was you doing at my parents' place? What was you doing in my brother's room? What was he doing there? Why were you there? And Xander pretty much does not answer him. I don't know what kind of line he gave, but it was very vague and it didn't really answer the question. And, long story short, Eric was like, you had something to do with it. You know, my brother being all out of it and everything like that. And I think that you hired a thug to do your dirty work. And I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And then after he leaves, Xander pulls out a gun and is like, if the justice system does not work fast enough, I'm going to sit there and take care of myself when it comes to Brady. And it's almost laughable because, in a certain sense, it's like, Sarah, you lied on the oath, right? And when this whole thing comes out that he didn't do it, you did that to protect your sociopath of a husband, right? You did that to do, and he's still out there planning murder. So, like, you did that almost in a sense for no reason because he's just going to go out and do it again anyway. Um, Now I'm not going to lie that the conversation with Fiona vexes me, right? So she tells Sarah that, yeah, you were lying, and I overheard it when I was in there walking past the room. And Sarah was like, I did it to protect your son because I knew that, without anything, Xander was going to sit there and kill Brady and make it look like he did it himself. And then Fiona gets super guilty and is crying and everything like that. And she's all like, I love you like a daughter. And it just irked the living hell out of me because, yes, I understand that there's remorse from her. But it doesn't level off the cowardness, the self-preservation, right? Like you're talking about, oh, what's done to you and this, that, and the third. But you did it. You did it. You're the one that sat there and put this one behind the wheelchair. So all this boo-hoo crying BS doesn't mean anything because you're not going to sit there and own up to it. So every single tear, every single sobbing and all this heartfelt garbage means absolutely nothing because you're not woman enough to sit there and tell the truth. So watching all that was vexing. Now, Tate does tell Brady that he believes that, he wasn't drinking and stuff. And talked about the whole mess with Holly. Holly broke into his room, his briefcase, and everything like that to look for evidence. And then he's like, well, he's upset with her because she's not being understanding towards the fact that Brady has a disease and being understanding towards him for sticking up for his father. And I'm like, Tate, you're pretty clueless, aren't you? Why the hell do you think that she will, first of all, be understanding towards his disease, when at the end of the day, his disease caused her aunt to be in a wheelchair? Like, people make choices. And I know people can sit there and say, well, the disease took over and everything like that. But at the end of the day, somebody is paralyzed. So, beg your pardon that she can't sit there and be all kumbaya and super understanding about it. Like, that's absolutely, utterly insane that she's supposed to sit there and be like, oh, you know what, you're right. Brady has a disease, so I just have to sit there and just be under. Like, no. I'm trying not to curse, but it's just like, it just brings me back to the whole Haley thing. People being so understanding, like, well, she's young and, she had a problem and everything like that. Well, you know what? Somebody else would have had a problem because they would have been dead. They could have been dead. 2 people could have died. More people could have died because of her actions. But we're supposed to sit there and just be all like, oh, well, it's totally fine because she has a disease and she must be out your goddamn mind. No. I understand where Holly's actually coming from. I get where Tate is coming from as well. But to sit there and expect this level of understanding is just idiotic. Now, he does sit there and say that it seems that her, and EJ's teaming up, and that he might have put her up to this, which is actually sad because she's the one that's not there voluntarily doing this for EJ. EJ didn't ask her to do it. She's the one that's not there doing it, but it's beside the point, though. Now, while that's going on, Sophia. You notice that I've sat there and talked about Sophia last for a specific reason. And it's mostly because the character just vexes the living hell out of me. She acts like her usual mean girl, fake, bitchy self. And, talks about everything that she heard from Tate, her breaking in to the room to sit there and try to find evidence, makes a bunch of Nancy Drew and Veronica Mars references and everything. And then proceeds to sit there and talk about how she can't wait to get Tate in bed and just throws it in her face that, eventually Tate is going to be hers. Now, for me, this just screams patheticness and desperation, right? And all for a kind of whiny, non-masculine, I don't want to sit there and say prick, because he's not a prick. But, I mean, you're doing a lot for him. And I personally don't sit there and think that, even as a straight man, I could sit there and say, I don't think that he's all that. But apparently, because the story demands it, in her tiny little mind, he is. So it gets to the point where Holly smacks fire out of Sophia, and Tate comes over there and defends Sophia. And they go back and forth and everything. And it gets to a point, it almost sounded like he was saying he was going to break up with her. He was like, you know what, that's pretty much about it. And Holly's like, what, are you breaking up with me? And instead of him answering her questions, instead of him manning up and being like, if that's what he wants to do, then fine, that's what he wants to do. I'm not going to knock him for that because it's clear that this is not something that they're going to be able to get past. Okay? He's going to sit there and stand by his dad. She is going to sit there and despise his dad for what he did. And that's not something you could just simply get past. But instead of him actually having the, instead of him manning up and sitting there saying it, she turns around, he looks at Sophia. So she's like, okay, fine. And she says it for him. She walks away, and he stands there, that stupid look on her face, in his face. And of course, Sophia, the pathetic little girl that she is, decides to start grabbing all over him. And, yeah, that's pretty much where that scene goes. I've realized that in soap operas, that there are always going to be characters that you don't like. And for the most part, you kind of just gotta just bear and grin it. Even when he vexes you at their highest peak, you're just like, the overall arc of the story or show is what I find entertaining and enough to sit there and make me stay. Not gonna lie, struggle was the struggle was real. I'm trying not to be as, I don't know, mean spirited as possible, but I don't like the character. She just gets under my skin. She annoys me, and oh, there's more. So let's just get past that. Kristen comes over to talk to Brady. And Brady still has that self-defeatist, pity party attitude of, I'm guilty, I did it, they deserve to throw the book at me, blah, 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 blah. Kristen's like, that's unacceptable. We got a daughter that you need to be there for. And she wants him there. Wants him to fight. But he's all like, I did it, blah, 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 blah. She's like, okay, guess what I'll do. After she was talking to AJ, by the way. Like, here's what I do. I'll just simply make Sarah disappear. The island, and she'll be over there hanging out or whatever. Just say the word and I'll do it. And Brady's like, no, because I don't need you to sit there and get in trouble. If I go to jail, that's fine, but Rachel still needs a parent. So don't do anything that's going to jeopardize your freedom. We don't need that. Kristen's like, I'm going to do what I need to do regardless. So she goes back to the house and she's like, what am I going to sit there and do? How am I going to sit there and get Brady out of this situation? And then Dr. Roth comes from the burnt ash tunnels. And I don't know. I think that maybe he can sit there and get Sarah to remember who did it. Hypnotizing didn't work. But maybe whatever sort of, drug therapy, whatever, mind control, whatever he got going on, he could sit there and shed some light on who really did it. Now, for the most part, that's pretty much about it. Can't think of anything else that wound up happening. But of course, if I miss anything, you know what to do. Write it in the comment section below, or better yet, come to the live stream and we'll sit there and talk about it, as well as all the other 4 soap operas. And yes, I know General Hospital is not on today because of baseball. Which I I feel like if I talk about that particular reason why baseball is on instead of General Hospital, that'll just be its own separate video. But yeah, so we'll be sitting there talking about all the soaps, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, Bold and Beautiful, and Young and Restless. With that being said, I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next video.